Welcome to Prophetic Perspectives on Current Events. I'm Rick Joyner, and here with another Rick Squared. This is Rick Eldridge.
Good to see you.
And been a good friend for a long time, and but also I think doing some remarkable things. If you didn't catch our last episode of Prophetic Perspectives, Rick has produced some incredible movies. He's started off in music, but you want to go back and check that out. But Rick also has one of the most amazing testimonies of something in his life. I know I shared it with our friends over at Billy Graham. They immediately did a story in Decision Magazine about it. It is truly a remarkable thing. Can you share this thing about
Sure,
your heart?
I'm happy to share about that. Yeah, Decision Magazine did a whole magazine on fear, and this was back during the ISIS time, and everything was going on, and people were fearful. They were fearful about either the economy or their health or their whatever it happened to be, and so. Decision covers are usually pretty simple, and they're beautiful and nice little design. This one had a skull on it. I couldn't believe that Franklin Graham would do that, but he did. And the top of it was fear. And they asked me to do this story about this particular thing that I had dealt with, and I said, really, in fear? And they said, yeah, people are afraid about their health, about what's going to happen to them, and so I said, okay, I get that, and I did do the story, and it was something that happened to me in Orlando. I was there, doing music, and I transitioned from music to film, and have been producing movies for about 30 years. But during that process, I was literally just sitting in church on a Sunday morning with my wife, and I'm 25 years old. Great health. I've been an athlete. In fact, the morning before, I was just out doing some high dives and, having some fun with some kids and, just no problems, none at all. Didn't feel anything, no pain, no anything. But I'm sitting in church and I start feeling this kind of swishing thing in my chest, much like you would with phlegm in your throat, something like that. And I told my wife about it. And I said, well, that's really weird. I mean, it doesn't hurt. It just feels like something's, gurgling down there. And so we just let it go for the day. It didn't bother me at all. But that night, as we were laying in bed, my wife leans over and puts her ear on it, and she kind of hears it too. And she says, you need to check that out just to see what's going on. So I go to a doctor the next day, and I literally didn't even have a doctor in town. I mean, I never had a reason to go, so I just opened up the Yellow Pages and went there. And that's the one I went to see. And I walked into the guy's office, and he got his stethoscope and listened for about 30 seconds, and looks up at me, and he says, well, you got a heart murmur. And I said, no, I don't have a heart murmur. I've never had a heart murmur. And he says, well, you do. And what I'm hearing is probably about a 0.6. And that swishing you're hearing is blood being pumped into your chest cavity. And you're going to lose enough of it, and it'll affect you. It's not affecting you now because your heart's strong and you're strong. And he immediately put me in the hospital.
Wow.
And so I went from feeling great, jumping off of high dives, to in a hospital bed. And I'll never forget, we went through about every kind of test you could go through. And this was in 1983. So it was a while back. It's been a long time. And so, they didn't know a lot of maybe what they know today. But here I am in the hospital, and they went through every test. They did a catheterization. And Dr. Gilbert, the cardiologist, head of the department, comes in and says, Rick, we don't know what's wrong. People don't usually just come in here and have a hole in their heart. And we've checked all your medical records. I was a pilot, so I had a first-class medical. And, that's a pretty significant, medical. And I'd been an athlete, so I'd had, medicals from school, from college and high school, and never had a problem. And my records were clean. And he said, people don't just walk in here with a hole unless they've been shot or maybe they've been stabbed, whatever. So he says, but we've got a hole here and we got to fix it, and if you'd like to get another opinion, at the time, Houston was kind of the main spot to go. That was kind of the big heart center. And I just said, no, I trust you guys. If that's what we got to do and we need to go fix it, let's do it. So, they didn't have a lot of the technology that they have today. They had to literally crack my crack me open and take care of it. And so we scheduled it, and I'll never forget looking at my catheterization. It said, it confirmed that there was a hole. It said aortic valve is fine. They said all my valves, everything seemed fine. I just got this hole. So we went in to do the surgery, and about 6 hours into the surgery, the doctor comes out, and my mom and dad and my wife are sitting in the room waiting, and doctor comes into the room and says, I just want to let you know we've been successful in patching the hole. Everything seems okay, and we'll have him out of surgery here in an hour or so. So she leaves, and about 30 minutes later, my wife hears this, Dr. Colbert, it was Dr. To surgery, Dr. Gilbert. And so she says, well, that's really weird. And it was an emergency call. So a few minutes later, he comes back, and this time he invites her out of the room by herself. So it's kind of scaring her a little bit. And he says, we had a complication. We were patching him up, and we noticed that there was a large tear in his aortic valve.
Wow.
And so we had to replace the valve. And we put a Borg-Scheile valve in because it's a mechanical valve. At the time, we were using pig valves, which would need to be replaced every 10 years, just about 5 to 10 years. You'd have to go in and do it again. And so they had this new technology, which was a mechanical valve, metal, that would last a lifetime, supposedly. That's at least what it had been tested as. So that's what they put in. And then they, I guess a couple days later, I woke up and kind of heard this ticking sound in my chest, and I'm in the room by myself, and it was kind of annoying me a little bit. And I just finally asked my wife, who's got a watch in this room? Yeah. And she says, well, that's not a watch, that's your heart. And then she told me for the first time that I had this issue and had this medical valve. Well, that all went well, and I was thanking God that He had, I was laying in bed the night before the surgery saying, God, I've had a chance to record albums, to travel around the world, and I've got my music as a legacy that I can leave for my daughter, who was 2 years old at the time, and if there's anything else you want from me, I'm here. If you want to take me, I'm ready to go. That's kind of the conversation I was having. And now I wake up and there's a clock ticking. So I'm here. But what I come to find out after about a year and a half of that, someone sent me an article that the aortic valve by Borg-Scheile was being recalled.
And how would you like? Recalling your car is one thing.
Yeah.
But your heart getting
your heart valve is being recalled. And I'm thinking, boy, that's not very good.
No.
And it really became a very unusual thing. They were, of course, class action lawsuits. Everybody's going after all kinds of things. I really wasn't in that mindset. I was asked to go see a guy that worked in the medical field. He was an attorney. And I asked him, I said, what do I do about this? What should we do? And he says, well, why don't we just send a note to your cardiologist and ask him what's the best thing for us to do? So, this was not we're going to come after you. This was a, what should we do kind of a letter that was sent to the cardiologist. And the cardiologist immediately sent me a letter and said, I can no longer be your doctor. And and so that led us to think, man, maybe there was really something that went on. And the way this happened, later on, I think we determined that there was something that went on while they were trying to put me back together that caused that tear in the valve, and it was probably something they were trying to cover up. Wow. When we went back later, and I literally went back to the hospital and asked for my medical records, and they had disappeared. They were not there at the hospital.
Kidding.
Nope, they were not there. So all of this is going on, and I've got to determine what to do with this valve. And at the time, there were probably about 80,000 worldwide that were implanted, that were the aortic valves. And they actually started in Norway, and the entire country of Norway paid for all of the people that had that surgery to have a resurgery because it was that serious of a deal. 60 Minutes did a major news article on it and called it the most, the biggest medical malpractice ever in the history of medicine.
It would last for 100 years, but in one case it broke after just 8 days and the patient died instantly.
And what we found is that these valves had a strut fracture that was happening. And, sometimes you didn't even, find it. And if it's an aortic valve, because of the major blood supply that it has to your heart, you literally have seconds and you're gone.
Wow.
And people would just drop over. And what they were doing was, they were welding the strut valve where it just opens and closes like an aortic valve will, and as the struts would break, it would close or it would open. If it would close, you would drop over immediately, and that was happening. So what was happening at the plant, because this was such a new technology and it was really just taking the medical world by storm, is that when they would test the valve and it looked like it had a fracture, they would put it in a bin over here. And 60 Minutes did this article and told this whole story. And then they would go back and as they were not able to keep up with the supply, they would pull these valves out of the bin that were malfunctioning, and they would literally fix them or do a weld on them, and then send them out.
Sherry will say under oath that some cracked heart valves were even retrieved from garbage bins, polished up and then sold.
And that's what was happening. So it was a major class action suit, and I chose not to be a part of it. I just felt like, after talking to several people, I felt like, I don't need to sue people. I'm not out on a witch hunt. I just want to make sure that, I'm doing the right thing for my family and for myself and for my health. And a long story short, I chose, and I check this about every other year now, to see how the valve is working. I still have that valve in my heart. And it's been over 30 years now.
It's amazing.
And the point for me was that, I have a huge risk in having the surgery because there's scar tissue. There's the potential that it may not work, or that the surgery wouldn't be successful. There's complications to that. There's all kinds of things that can happen. And yet, if we do the surgery, the valve that I put in potentially would either not take or not work, or there's just all kinds of questions. And so we have these evaluations every couple of years to say go or no go. And at every time I've chosen to trust God and to say, God gave me this valve. I think it's a good one because it's lasted a while, and I'm going to trust Him that He'll carry me through this. And it's you can hear it ticking. I mean, it ticks today, and thank God that it does.
When it stops ticking,
I'm gone. And I think God really wants us in every case, at every step, to be ready, to be to know that He is in control. And my life scripture is 1 Chronicles 29:11 and 12, and it basically puts that perspective on everything. And it says, "Everything in the heavens and earth are yours, O Lord. This is your kingdom. I adore you as being in control of everything. Riches and honor come from you alone. For you're the ruler of all mankind. Your hand controls power and might. And it's at your discretion that men are made great and given strength."
Wow.
The perspective is He's in control of everything.
Right.
If we truly believe that, then this is no big deal for Him.
No, if He upholds the universe, He can probably
He can probably
keep
take
your valve
care of
going.
that. And so, for me, for this case, for this time, that's what we've chosen to do. And it has been I know Paul had a thorn in his side. We don't know what that was, but I doubt it was a valve. But that's what I got. And it's a constant reminder of my focus and who I am and where I am, and whether it's writing songs or telling stories or whatever I do with my life, I know that God is in control, and that I need to keep myself before Him. And it's no different than any of us. I guess I'm just dumb enough that I need this little ticking thing to remind me.
Well, how many others still have that valve in them?
I don't know of very many at all that have it. I mean, it's been most of the people that had this valve are not with us anymore.
Because it quit working.
Because it quit working. And we've done a lot of research. And actually, when I was thinking about going through this resurgery, I actually talked to several people, even a doctor overseas who had the valve put in himself, and to get evaluations of it. Well, I remember one lady we talked to who just told a story of her husband, and they were struggling with the same thing, and he got up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, and she heard him fall over, and it was just it just quits, and you're gone.
Wow.
But so over the years, many have had the resurgery and they've done okay with it. Some have had the resurgery and not done okay. They've had complications, and of course, it's many years later now. And I was 25 years old. I was one of the youngest people to ever have this, and so even then, a lot of the people were 50, 60 years old, and they're gone anyway.
Yeah.
Now, so but it's in God's hands.
Yeah. And it is with all of us all the time, but you have the reminder, the tick, tick. But our times are all in his hands.
That's right.
And, but that is such an incredible testimony, and the way the Lord has kept you and used you, and you're just trusting, keep this thing ticking.
Yeah.
But it's one thing for your own thing that he made.
Yeah.
But sometimes to trust what man has made, especially when they had a recall
Yeah.
and it's failed and people have been dropping over, and to put your trust in the Lord and say, no, he can keep this one going. Well, listen, we've got another just amazing thing that Rick has been involved in that we're going to talk about in this next segment. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.
If you're watching this, I must be dead. How was my funeral? Well attended? I hope it rained. I made a lot of mistakes with our family, but you're the one I think I hurt the most. So I want to give you a gift, a series of gifts leading up to, well, I'm going to call it the ultimate gift. Now, you fail in any way, it's over. You get nothing.
This powerful DVD set by Rick Eldridge teaches us the value of work, money, family, friendship, and gratitude. The ultimate gift, the ultimate life, and the ultimate legacy. The Ultimate Gift Trilogy DVD set, all for the price of $25, and that includes free shipping on domestic orders. Order now. Call 888-778-7141 or visit store.morningstarministries.org.
Well, we're here with Rick Eldridge, and who's made some of my favorite movies, and will be yours too if you haven't seen them. You need to see them. But we were just talking about this situation with your heart valve, and there's one other little point that is amazing.
Yeah, of course, having all of this, there's a great, sense of, and people have asked me this: are you bitter? Are you mad at the fact that somebody ruined your life like that, or caused these things to have to happen in your life? And of course, if we truly believe that God's in control, then I can't be bitter with that. But I start to have this real sense a few years ago that this doctor, if they really did something that they tried to cover up or whatever, that he must be living with so much guilt. Mm-hmm. With so much in his own heart and life, and I couldn't talk to the guy anymore. He just cut us off at that point. So I made it a point to try to go find him. And I went to Orlando, and I went to the hospital, and I walked through, and of course he's much older now and retired. I found out he was alive, and no one would give me his number. They wouldn't give me his information, but I actually, my point was to try to find him or somebody that could relay a message to him. And I actually had a whole pack of movies that I was going to take him. The Ultimate Gift, The Ultimate Life, Bobby Jones, some of my movies, even some of my kids' product for his maybe grandkids or great-grandkids. And the point was for me to say to him, you know what? I don't know what happened, and it doesn't matter. God prevailed, and I'm here, and because of the work that you did that kept me alive, here's all of the product and the things that are out there in the world, ministering to people and giving messages to people around the world, and it's okay. I just want to let you know it's okay. God's
That's
in control,
great.
and He's got this. I was not able to get to him, but I was able to get to his son, and I was able to leave some things for them. And I just pray that he got the message, and that maybe that's some sense of maybe just cleansing for him if he feels that. You know how you do. We've all done stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like we do something that's way back in our life when we just think about it and we say, boy, it's just something that torments us. And even though God gives us grace and God forgives everything that we do and He washes it clean, we don't, because we're
Right.
human, and that's some of the very things that Satan can come inside of our lives and deal with, because he loves to remind you of that stuff you did, all those dumb things or stupid things.
God forgives and forgets,
Yes.
but Satan never forgets.
And the way Satan can sometimes get us off track is to pull us back into depression or into thinking that we're not good enough, that we have no business doing what we're doing, and using that in that way. But God's forgiveness is so great, and I in some way just wanted to portray that to him, that it's okay. God had this, and for whatever reason that happened at that particular time, these things happened that are good.
Yeah.
And that continue on way beyond, and that you in some way are even part of that legacy. That was
Yeah.
my message to him.
Wow, that's awesome. And that's one thing too, that we need to have compassion for all healthcare workers. They can never admit a mistake for the fear of the lawsuits, and
Right?
nobody can learn from their mistakes, because this is something that really has to be fixed.
That's right.
And I think we have somebody who's trying to fix a lot of stuff in our government, and you just
right.
made a movie called
The Trump Prophecy. Yes, we did. And it's a volatile subject matter. It's a movie that I struggled with doing, but God just wouldn't let me go. He put it in front of me, and
I
I
remember you
actually,
struggling through it.
I actually had to move a movie down to slot it in, because the message from God that I got was, you got to do this, and you got to have it out by the midterms. We didn't know at the time what was going to be happening in our world, but we've got a president who basically lives in a battlefield every day because people are trying to bring him down.
He's getting shot at from every
yeah.
direction every day.
Yep, and we've got a nation that's divided in so many ways about these things, and I see it even when I mention the title of the movie. You can watch their face and see how they react, and you know where they're coming. And it's just a title. They don't even know what the movie's about. But the movie tells the story of a public servant who hears a message from God, and our byline on the movie is a message of hope, a movement of prayer, because what happens to him as a point of healing becomes a prayer for our nation, and a movement of prayer with thousands of people all over the nation praying for our leadership. Just like 2 Chronicles says,
Yeah.
if my people will humble themselves and turn from their wicked ways and seek my face, I'll heal their land. And this was the prayer. This is kind of what it was all built upon. So the movie tells this parable story of this public servant. It tells the parable story of this lady who starts this movement of prayer because of that story. And then it ends with kind of a media experience where you've got a song that tells about the foundational principles of America, the sacrifices that people have made for the freedoms that we have today. And it has 14 what I call conversational stories with leaders from around the world, that people like General Boykin talking about, what does it mean that America be great in our military? People like we've got the former communications director for Netanyahu talking about the Middle East, talking about specifically Israel. What does it mean for Israel that America be great, America be strong? And so it tells a great story that hopefully will be an inspiration, and then it tells us a story through a song of the foundational principles that our nation was founded upon, and then through these 14 thought leaders gives us some basis by which to pray and put into perspective what God can do in our land. And so it's called The Trump Prophecy, and it's going to release October the 2nd.
October the 2nd and the 4th in 1,000 theaters.
Around 1,000 theaters across America, and you can buy pre-sale tickets. They're selling out all over the country now, so I would encourage people to buy their tickets ahead of time.
Soon.
You can go to the TrumpProphecyMovie.com, Just remember the TrumpProphecyMovie.com, or a new technology on your phone. You can dial your star, not your pound, your star thing, go star movie, and it'll prompt you all the way through to be able to buy tickets. Just dial the star movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, the ones that have seen this movie, I haven't seen it yet, but I will be in one of those theaters with you.
Well, I
But
appreciate
the
it.
ones who have seen it it has been amazing. Stunning. A stunning message for our times. You don't want to miss it. October the 2nd, October the 4th, the Trump prophecy. Now, it's going to be stirring up all kinds of controversy. That's when you know it's important. Be there. Thank you for joining us today. And you don't want to miss the next Prophetic Perspectives.
My job as a fireman was to react calmly. You can't afford to have feelings about it. It'll get you killed. In my work, I've seen everything. But what I saw last night scared me so much.
Until recently, nobody knew what PTSD was.
Lord, I need you to heal him.
I'm done.
How does it feel?
It's a little scary. I have very graphic dreams. Sometimes I think it's God talking to me. Dreams are important. They can give us a window to what's going on inside. I got this one in 2011.
The Commander-in-Chief prophecy?
God is telling us to pray for our country, its leadership, and those in authority over us. That's what we need to do.
They're going at him tooth and claw. What if I'm wrong?
If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then will I hear from heaven and heal their land.
And all he has to do is make this final putt. And he did it! He won! Real golf is never this exciting. But you know what is? The story of Bobby Jones and the Stroke of Genius. This inspirational film by Rick Eldridge tells the story of a man whose love of the game motivated him to achieve the impossible. Order a Stroke of Genius today and receive Hermie and Friends A Fruitcake Christmas. A perfect gift for all ages, teaching the true meaning of Christmas. Order the Stroke of Genius special today for only $15, and that includes free shipping on domestic orders. Call 888-778-7141 or visit us at store.morningstarministries.org.
On TV, online, on the go, and on your iPad. Tune into Prophetic Perspectives with Rick Joyner, always available on MorningStarTV.com.